Well, good morning all, and welcome to the Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting for September 2021. My name is Eric Geyer. I'm the Director of Jackson County Community Justice, and I get to chair this meeting. I'm looking over at Jasmine as she continues to text me to see if we're closer to a quorum. I think we're still 3 people short of that quorum. So we'll perhaps drag our feet a little bit and do any of the business that we need to do towards the end of the meeting. And maybe we can move over to our presenters today, as we're lucky enough to have Rogue Retreat here with us. But we will have the opportunity to vote on minutes, as well as look at our new member application towards the end of it. So with that, I'd like to get right to it, if that's okay, moving through the agenda. And, you know, for those of us who've worked here in this county for quite a while, we know what a challenge housing's been historically. And really, it's become a more visible challenge as we see more and more people who are unhoused on the streets. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we started talking about the need for supported housing. And we still talk about that. That's really important. But about 2 years ago, we started to hear the term low barrier housing enter the conversation, and what that meant. The idea that people would have access when they needed it to housing that didn't ask a lot of them right there, but rather met them where they were at as they started to stabilize. And the fact that Rogue Retreat has been able to stand up the services they've been able to stand up so quickly and in such a responsive manner, I think is a testament to the people that work there and their commitment to this work, because it certainly has not been easy. But it really does do my heart good to turn the meeting over to Matt Werdestrasse and Justin Hahn from Rogue Retreat and hear about what they've been able to build. So Matt and Justin, thanks for joining us, and thanks for presenting today.
Thanks, Eric. So I am Justin Hahn. I am the operations manager at Rogue Retreat. So I oversee all of our facilities here at Rogue Retreat. And Matt, he is the development director, and he does a plethora of things here for us at Rogue Retreat. And today he has helped me present a slideshow here. We do a lot of different things, but our mission is to help homeless individuals and give them hope. And so we have been doing different types of pieces here in the community. We started out trying to come together and figure out how to best empower individuals and help them move forward in their lives. And so we started in the basement with the shelter. So this was just a seasonal thing. So when it got extremely cold, we were in the basement over there by the jail, and we were able to provide shelter to around 54 individuals a night. And then we've seen that the need was much more. But this came at a cost, you know, so there was a lot of learning things that came with this. We learned what worked and what didn't work. So this was like the initial piece where we realized that we needed to do things different. So then we got a year-round shelter, the Kelly Shelter, right? So the Kelly Shelter is a 64-bed unit, and it's co-ed. We take men, women, and children. At this facility, we do a light-bound background check. So they can't be a predatory SO, and this can't be a violent offender, because we have women and children in there. So we do our best to support them, the individuals that are there. At this location, we have intensive case management. So the intensive case management looks like different for every individual. So it may be getting them on their housing applications, getting their birth certificate, their IDs, more intensive stuff, helping them apply for long-term housing. Because the long-term goal is we want to get them out of homelessness and get them on their feet into long-term sustainable housing. From here, we're able to transition them to Hope Village. And Hope Village is 34 tiny houses, and we are adding 4 more. These units are more, there's more freedom here. So each individual has their own unit, but there are requirements. So we come through, we do inspections, and if they're under the influence or using on the property, they will be exited. So we try to keep this more of a stronger community environment and help these individuals flourish from here. So we've had a lot of residents move from here into their own long-term housing. And then next steps after this, if they were to continue in our programs, We have the havens, so there's Harold's Haven, there's Summit House, there's Cindy's Haven. Cindy's Haven is for medically assisted treatment, as well as Amy's Haven.
Sorry, I misspoke on Cindy's Haven. That's our recuperative housing.
Okay. I primarily focus on the men's housing, and we have a case manager, so that does the women's housing. We have all different kinds of housing here at Rogue Retreat. So the men's houses are designed for individuals. So Summit House is ran by Rogue Retreat, owned by On Track, and supported by the city of Medford. So as you see in the picture there, you got the livability team, and you got the men in the house. And that's a low barrier residential housing. So I think it's the only one in the valley that the clean time requirement is 7 days. Anyone that I've ever heard of is around 30 to 60 days. So, and this, I truly love this model. I think this model, the success rate that we're getting out of there is phenomenal. The things that the men have been able to do in this house is just tremendous, So 2 of them have been able to move on to their own long-term housing. One was able to buy his own RV and his own truck. And some of them have got gainful employment that they've never had in their life. Some have gotten their driver's license back. So there's a lot of productiveness coming out of this program right here. This was my pride and joy. But Harold's Haven is a little bit different. So the individuals coming in there, they have to have a minimal of 30 days clean to get into that. And they are coming from residential facilities. So like ARC, On Track, or any other residential facility around the state, they could apply for that. So there is a clean time requirement more extensive to that one. The apartments. So we have Manzanita apartments, we have Grape Street, we have Riverside. These are all subsidized. So the tenants are responsible for paying 30% of their adjusted gross income. And then 21 others are offered a sliding scale. Redwood, we have Redwood right now. It is in the midst of being remodeled. So there are 47 units. And there is a lot going into this. So it's primarily designed for the Alameda fire victims. And throughout this process, we've been doing a lot of transitional moving parts there as a reconstruction and the upgrades continue. I've been in a lot of meetings lately and we are progressing. So I think the final date that we're looking at for this is around Valentine's Day coming up, and it should be finalized on the completion of the Redwood. Clean Sweep. This is like a job readiness program that we have here at Rogue Retreat. So Clean Sweep goes around and they clean up our city businesses, our streets, sometimes parks, parking lots. And it's a contract that our guy Todd, he runs this program. So they do a lot of different outreach to the community. Usually he parks his bus down there at Hawthorne and people show up and he takes them out on a crew. We have an ODOT crew now that is going out to Grants Pass and cleaning the roadways. They've gotten a railroad contract where they're cleaning up the railroad. But a lot of great work is coming from this. Quite a bit of our participants have been able to find long-term employment through this program. We have a thrift shop. So this is a very good thing for a lot of our participants. So they can go there and get clothes at a discounted rate if they're looking for interview clothing, shoes, different kinds of materials. So all of the proceeds from thrift shop support the homeless supportive housing and shelter programs of Rogue Retreat. So if you guys want to support this, this is great. And this is Grants Pass. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with what we got going on in Grants Pass. So this is coming to light here soon, and it should be launching here within the next couple of weeks. So this is a 17 tiny house facility in Grants Pass. So this is Foundry Village. These are a lot different than what we have here in Medford. So these are actually built on a foundation and built up like an actual house, and they're framed. from the ground up. And so they will have electricity to these. They will have all different kinds of amenities. The big building there is like the rec hall. There's a big indoor refrigerator for the residents to utilize. They're going to have case management. And so this is our launching facility that we have in Grants Pass. We're in the midst of designing and creating a Grants Pass campground out there as well. So a lot more to come.
Absolutely. And one of the things I wanted to show with the drone shot that we had is Foundry Village is up against a residential neighborhood. And so I know that when we start talking about villages and programs like this, oftentimes people have stereotypes of what that property and site location would look like in their heads. But what we wanted to show was that when you compare this to the existing residential community that it's going up against, it's actually going to help dress up that neighborhood even more so. And so we're really excited about Foundry Village and what that's going to look like up there.
This is the first slide there you see with the pallet houses. That is Campground 2.0. The far right is Campground, I guess we'll call it the urban campground or 1.0. So originally the campground was designed to support individuals coming off the Greenway for Alameda and COVID. So that started with around 25 sites, and we've seen that the need was much more prevalent. So we increased to about 50, and then we went to 62, and then we went to 75. And the need was so much more greater, we decided to build 2.0. But 1.0, I think the major pieces to that is the support that we've had from the city and the county. We've had a lot of support from our city and county throughout the whole creation and the growth of that campground. So it's definitely been a lot of community support on that one, as well as community partner support. You know, St. Vincent de Paul has been a major player in that, giving us all the financial means that we can utilize. So the canopies and the tents have been provided by St. Vincent. You know, the bark, we contacted Parks Department, every contractor around here that did trees, and we put mulch down. And so there was a lot that was put into that. And then the second site, 2.0, is going to be around 85 units, but it's going to be different than 1.0. So 1.0 is like low barrier. So there are some simple rules. There's no theft, no fires, no persistent disruptive behavior, no alcohol and drugs on the property, and no theft and weapons. So which low barrier means that anybody can come in under the influence of mind-altering substances. They just can't have that on the property. So they can use outside of the gates, they just can't have it on the property. So if they become a nuisance or problematic, we will look at exiting them, usually for 24 hours until they come back sober. And then we'll have those conversations with them about behavior change and stuff like that. We have a lot of supports that come out there and help with that. Options is our primary for mental health support. ARC comes out, Legal Aid comes out, dual diagnosis comes out. There's probably a lot that I'm forgetting, but we have a lot of support from our community partners, the VA. So it's very immersed in the community as a home-based system to where they can find the individuals that they're trying to support. So moving from there, the only way to get into the next campground is to come through 1.0 first. So you come through 1.0 and you get adjusted, you get acclimated, and then we'll move you to 2.0 if you're ready. 2.0 is a little bit different. It has case management. If you come in under the influence, we will be required to engage with alcohol and drug treatment or go get an assessment. So it's like a higher level for individuals. You will have to get employment, you know, just depending on your barriers, what's holding you back, you know. So we like to move them forward, you know, and not set them up for failure. So sometimes an individual can stay at 1.0 for 6 months, 9 months. There's been a couple individuals that have been there a year. So, but we like to help these guests transition forward to the next programs. So, but each individual is different. Each case plan is different. So we like to adjust and modify and try to support the individual the best that we can. So
I had a question about the campground.
yes, sir.
And just in terms of, well, it's not even a question, it's a request. I mean, you've been there for so much of the development of this campground. What are some of the things you've learned? What are some of the things that opened your eyes in terms of what the guests needed and how they were best supported? And also, what are the things you've learned about the intake process, identifying a person who would benefit from it and then getting them there?
The intake process usually, so that's a coordination between us and the livability team or the sheriff's department, depending on the individual. Sometimes we have resources call us, but the need, I would say it's not for everyone, right? There are some individuals that want it, and there are some individuals that don't want it. But I think that the ones that want it are there. The intake process, I think that the questions that we ask on those have a high level of importance because it gives a lot of our staff the baseline to get them into supportive services. So we ask them the primary questions, you know, do they have a mental health caseworker? Do they have a probation officer? Do you have any forms of income or identification pieces? Are they missing any of those? So I think the intake piece is one of the most important pieces because that gives us the baseline to start them with and to help them transition forward. And I think that since we have had this going, we have been able to get a lot of different individuals that are justice involved, for example, connected with their probation officer again. There has been a rare occasion to where an individual has done house arrest there with his PO via a cell phone transmitter. You know, I think all in all, this is a great system, not only for what we're doing, moving people forward, but I think for other entities as well, like community justice, for when they're trying to connect with an individual. Does that answer what you're trying to ask, Eric?
Yes, although there's so much of what you guys have been able to do that is just because, well, at least as an outsider, it seems it's because you've got a dedicated staff that truly does treat guests like guests. And you take a group of folks who traditionally haven't been able to thrive in group living environments, and you've gotten amazing results. So I was just, whatever that secret ingredient is, and it might just be having the right staff with the right mentality, but it's been really incredible to see. So
I think one of the major things for us is getting the staff with lived experience. You know, whether they had their own experience in homelessness, they had their own experience in addiction, they had their own experience in mental health. You know, I think that plays key factors into the success of this because they're able to share their experiences with these individuals, you know, to help them find the light at the end of the tunnel, you know. And so right now, so let's say the urban campground, for example, there has been 722 individuals coming through there since January 27th of last year. 254 of those individuals have transitioned to other programs. You know, that could be a Kelly shelter, that could be VA housing, that could be their own long-term housing, that could be long-term residential, the mission, so Hope House. So there's a lot of different factors that we identify as a success. We identify as success as something better than where they were. So 254 of those individuals have moved forward from the urban campground. So we're about a 35% success rate. And to talk about the ordinance, so the ordinance, I think it took effect May 1st. And so since May, 80 individuals throughout that ordinance have been able to get referrals and come into the urban campground, you know, which is really good, you know. And I haven't seen any difference in people coming there from ordinance or you know, just the regular Greenway outreach that the police department does. They'll do a specific section, so we might get, I don't know, 4 or 5 on one day versus another day it'd be 2. But the staff that we have there just does a phenomenal job in supporting these individuals, supporting the livability team, as well as the sheriff's department, continuing what they do in support of the ordinance. So,
Justin, if you don't mind, I'd love to add to, Eric, one of the things that I really love about the way that these programs are operated is inadvertently from the urban campground to our apartments. Everything is being kind of almost set up like a continuum. And with the urban campground, we're able to meet people pretty much where they're at and help them stabilize, meet their basic needs. Once they all of a sudden know where they're sleeping, they know where they're eating, and those basic needs are met, that's when really the secret sauce really kind of begins kicking in. And that secret sauce is wraparound supportive services, where not only our peers and our case managers and our support staff wrap themselves around these individuals, but also our community partners come in and do. And when we're able to meet people's basic needs and de-escalate them out of crisis, and in this continuum, you're able to then begin moving people forward and ideally begin addressing the barriers that led them to us in the first place. And that's one of the things I really think that the urban campground has really called out, is the importance of having a community continuum where you can do that. You can stabilize people, and then in a stair-step manner or in a laddered approach, be able to move people through. And to me, that I think is one of the most crucial things about what we're seeing here in Medford now.
I mean, our staff is limited though, so when we have somebody that has high mental health needs, sometimes they are beyond our level of care, and it's unfortunate, but we try our best to get those individuals engaged in the services. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. A couple of our residents, we've had to exit numerous times. There was one individual, for example, that we had to exit because of behavioral reasons as well as mental health 9 times, but we never shut the door on the individual, and the individual ended up coming back and immersed themselves into services. And I can say right now that individual is one of our biggest success stories that we've had this year. Just done phenomenal, has went through 3 of our programs, is at Hope Village right now, anticipating on transitioning here soon. So the thing is each individual is different. And if you close the door on one of them, it makes it that much more harder for them to succeed. We always try to keep an open mind and in helping individuals. So there are some that we've had to give an extended timeout, a few months timeout, that before they can come back and engage in one of our programs. But throughout that time, I will still engage with them. I'll go check in with them. For example, there was a guy that we exited for a little while, and I'm going to meet him once a week. Just check up on him and see how he's doing, because I want to help this person, but he's just not ready for a communal style living as of yet. But if we can keep moving forward and helping these guys and gals, I think that success rate is just gonna, keep climbing higher.
Yeah, Justin and Matt, great job with all these programs. One of my questions was just on Hope Village. You said you were adding 4 more houses, and what's the capacity there, and what's keeping you from adding more?
We went to the city with a proposed amount, and that's how it was. They were like, okay, you get this number, and then we went back. We were like, well, we want to add some more. So the property size basically is our hindrance at making any more sites at that location. Because we put the max capacity of what we could have there. And right now there are 34 units, and we anticipate adding 4 here relatively soon, which will make it to 38. And at that location, there are no children allowed. So there could be 2 individuals per unit. So say if there were a couple, that could be what I'm trying to think the number in my head, 34, I don't know, around 70 something, 80. So it just depends on if it's a couple or a single individual, how many we could have there.
I second, third, fourth, the appreciation for the work on this. It's been really great. One of the questions, and I think you just began to hint at this, that we've had in our discussions with you has been around the financial sustainability. I think the work you guys are doing is phenomenal, and you're leaning into a space that no one else has in a really successful way. And so my question, some to you two, but also to the rest of this committee really here is, how do we build a funding model that can support that work without it constantly relying on prayer-based fundraising, which you all and Chad do phenomenally well? Because I think if we have a sustainability and a stability to this, then it allows you to kind of grow on the successes at a different rate than you would otherwise. So I'm curious, Matt and Justin, to hear your initial thoughts on that, and then where you are starting to see some additional partnerships build that might help with that.
No, I've had some recent conversations on that exact topic. We were recently in a conversation with Access where we were talking about sustainability for these types of programs. One of the things that we run into as our community continues to create more and more alternatives like this is we are creating an inadvertent competition for a finite amount of resources and funds to be able to run these programs. And so one of the things that we had talked about is the need for our community and the COC to kind of come together to identify how do we leverage the community support and to create a long-term sustainable revenue pool to help operate these programs. That way, we're not continuously coming back for grant funding or fundraising to try to be able to maintain operations. And so my thought would be, this is what I would definitely vote for, is that between Access and the state funds, and then also even with the CCOs and any other stakeholder, I think we all need to come to the same table and identify how do we create that pool of money and how do we make sure that it is there to run these safety net services that are essential for this community. And so long story short, right now, the funding model that we have for these is not necessarily sustainable, but we do recognize that as a community, we need to come together to come up with a sustainability plan to keep these services going.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I ask it somewhat selfishly because we've been funding a lot of it. And I think it is very important work. And long-term will be challenging to fund on a Medicaid budget. And so it's really around how do we collectively come together in this valley to support it in a stronger fashion. So thanks for that.
But I would love to see the same ability for that Medicaid funding to provide sustainability for these programs. We talk about low barrier housing and we meet people where they're at, even if they don't have a diagnosis or if they don't have a code, to be able to fund services where they're at, and low barriers to reimbursement would be incredible. And Jennifer, I know that's something that the entire state and probably nation is working on, but really for the types of folks that we're working with and the types of services that they're providing for these folks, I would love to see that be a reality.
Yeah, and to be clear, I think we put, Matt, you probably know, we put in over $250,000 each year now. And so we are doing that. It's just how to grow it from what it is and move it even beyond Medicaid, I think becomes, and it's not enough. Matt and Justin will tell you what we provide isn't enough. So it's how do we really back it in a stronger fashion? So it's a yes and, Eric.
You know, and I will add too that I think one of the things that would be helpful when we look at these funding pieces is to then look at the commitment that each entity has. You know, one of the things I would love to see is in the future for not necessarily Rogue Retreat, but these services being called out in even a county budget and a city budget to have renewable revenue attached to it that each municipality is kind of investing in throughout their fiscal years. And so I think that we'll have to hodgepodge money together, but I think there is a way that we could collectively come together to leverage that.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything that you're doing too, and it's visible in the community. And we just, I mean, I speak for everybody here that we work with, at CASA that we are very impressed. And I'm sort of curious as to how do you benchmark against some of these other programs throughout Oregon doing similar or same work? And I know communities are different in terms of size and resources, but I'm just curious as are you blowing everybody out of the water? Are you, is there something for others to learn?
So I think one key component is a lot of communities throughout the state are reaching out to us. We have done a lot of tours, a lot of facilitation over the last year from different communities throughout the state. And they've been coming here to pick our brains because they have realized something is working here and we have been doing something right. So they have been actually taking the model that we have created here and are creating it in their own communities throughout the state. We've had them as far as, Cave Junction and up there by Washington and over at the coast, and just coming here, different mayors, city council, private vendors, coming to see what works, and they just love the model that we have and how it's working. So it's pretty great.
I know you already received some state funding, but there could be an opportunity there in replication or in counseling advisement through the state. So other organizations have done that and been successful with it. So, but thank you for all you guys are doing.
I would love to connect with you on that if possible. That's actually one of my other hats that I wear is I help oversee the training that we do for other communities.
I have the person, I'm not personally adept at this, but I have the person I can put you in touch with.
That'd be amazing. Thank you.
This is Hilda, and I have a question. I'm thinking about, the first question that popped in my mind was about children, and you mentioned, Justin, that some places don't have or are not, children can be there, because I was thinking about the needs and the risk and all of that. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that. And then the second part of my question is about diversity in general. I'm thinking specifically about LGBTQ populations, and if there is a religious component to this, and does that create a barrier, or is it very welcoming to people of all aspects of diversity, socioeconomic, I'm sure, but I'm wondering specifically about LGBTQ people. And I was also curious if you have, racial and ethnic diversity.
So we help anyone. So it don't matter who they are, where they're from. We try to help everyone in one of our programs. So at the campground, for example, we don't allow children because we don't do background checks on individuals. So at the shelter, we allow children because we do light background check. At Hope Village, we're not equipped to support children there. There's no electricity in the units, so they wouldn't be very family friendly. At the apartments, they can have children at the apartments, but we are designing a new model in Ashland that's anticipated to launch here within the next couple of weeks, to where there are going to be family units inside. So there's going to be 49 different spaces there to help individuals, and we are going to have more family units offered throughout the county. But we aren't religious. What is Chad's quote? We aren't faith-based, but we're based on faith.
One of the things that we often get confused with is a faith-based organization because our leader is a pastor. But one of the things that he will often say is we're not a faith-based organization, but we are an organization that is led by faith. And so our belief is just to continue showing up and doing the next right things and finding ways to say yes to doing the right thing in the community. And so with that being said, there is no religious exposure within the program that's forced or anything. But in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, one of the things I want to say too, that with the Alameda fire, we ended up serving a larger population of the Latinx community than we had in the past. And what that caused us to have to do is really invest more in bringing in culturally competent staff that are bilingual and can help us bridge those cultural or create those cultural bridges. And so as we continue going forward, DEI work is something that we do want to drill down deeper into so that we can make sure that we are doing this the right way. And then also that we're more reflective of the community that we serve.
We have such a diverse staff, you know, from different backgrounds and different cultures. And so they help us support with what we're doing too, as well as supporting the clientele. So.
Well, I think it's been said in the comments, but you guys did an excellent job. And Justin, I would not have known this was your first PowerPoint presentation. So again, so inspired by this work. Certainly there's a need for more of this and to grow it, but to support what we have and you guys' ability to stand this up so quickly has been unbelievable. So incredible to see here in our community. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. And then also I threw on this last slide here just to show the other ones that are coming on board. We have the Ashland Urban Campground and Talent Gateway project, which is going to be an RV park for Almeda fire survivors, specifically non-FEMA families that are with the Phoenix Talent School District. And so those will be another 54 units that are coming on board. As of today, we have 323 beds each night that we have somebody sheltered under. Once all of these sites, Foundry Village, the Ashland Urban Campground, and Talent Gateway come forward, we will have a total of over 620 beds at that point. So as these next several sites come on board over the next few months, that will almost double our capacity.
Is your guys' contact information, have you shared that in the, we can put it in the minutes after this meeting so that when people get the minutes sent out to them. But if you don't mind throwing that in the chat, if people want to get a hold of you or ask additional questions, that'd probably be very much appreciated. Well, thank you both. That was an excellent presentation. We do have a quorum now, so we've got 3 items of business that hopefully we can knock out before folks get to their lunches. The first is that we had a new member application. And the way the Public Safety Coordinating Council works is that we have the ability to make recommendations to the board regarding the Board of Commissioners for Jackson County regarding membership. And so this application came through from Nathan Olson, who is the clinical director at the ARC. And he has been involved with a number of programs that have supported both recovery, treatment, and the intersection that it has with the criminal justice system. So Nathan did express interest in that. And at this point, if folks feel that that would be a good recommendation to move forward to the Board of Commissioners, I would entertain a motion to move it forward.
I move to adopt.
We have a motion from Hilda. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, I think Jennifer Mylitic beat Jennifer Lind just barely. It was close. It was close. So is there any discussion about Nathan's application? Hearing none. Jasmine, would you please take a roll call vote from membership?
All right, Lieutenant Josh Aldrich,
Yes.
Chief Scott Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Dave Daughter,
Well, since I get to vote on later on this one, I'll just abstain right now.
and Doug Engel,
Yes.
Chair Eric Geyer,
Yes.
Beth Heckert,
Yes.
Jennifer Lind,
Yes.
Judge Lorenzo Mejia. Is he still on the call? We can come back. Hilda,
Yes.
okay. Jennifer Mylenik,
Yes.
Mark Regals,
Yes.
Sheriff Sickler,
Yes.
Mayor Sparacino,
Yes.
and Rita Sullivan.
Yes.
And is Judge Mejia on the call? No. Okay, that's everybody.
All right, thank you. And then the next item of business we have is regarding the minute adoption for June and July. Those were all sent out. Did anybody have any comments about the minutes, questions about the minutes, or would they like to recommend approving the minutes as written?
Recommend approval.
Chief Clausen with the recommendation. Do we have a second?
Well, I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner. So we have a motion and a second to adopt the minutes. We can go through our roll call one more time and finish out our business for today. So Jasmine, if you would, thank you.
Okay. And Lieutenant Josh Aldrich,
Yes.
Chief Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughter,
Yes.
Doug Engel,
Yes.
Chair Guyer,
Yes.
Beth Hacker,
Yes.
Jennifer Lind,
Yes.
Hilda Montenegro Fix,
Yes.
Jennifer Malenik,
Yes.
Mark Regals,
Yes.
Sheriff Sickler,
Yes.
Mayor Sparacino,
Yes.
and Rita Sullivan.
Yes.
Okay, that's everybody.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody, including our guests today, who join us to contribute to this work and hear about the things going on in our community. If you do have a request for something you'd like to hear more about, you can email me or Jasmine directly and make a recommendation for a topic. But as it stands, I believe our next topic that we will hear about is some Measure 110 response in October. So until then, thank you all so much. And again, thank you to our presenters. Have a good day.